Good afternoon. Good afternoon. How's everyone doing? Welcome to another awesome episode of A Queen's Roundtable Show. We're doing things a little differently this time, and I am super excited, and we are ready to go in 2, 3, 1. All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am your host, 𝐿𝐿𝐿 Harrison, and again, you have joined us for A Queen's Roundtable Show, which happens typically every second and fourth Sunday of the month. Like I said, we're doing things a little bit differently. We're coming to you live on a Saturday and with a different something. Like I said, we're changing it up a little bit. I actually have a co-host, Miss 𝐐𝐵 Poland with Love for Words.
Yes.
Right? That's the name of her business. So she's going to be co-hosting this awesome episode with me today. And we're going to be talking about, the topic is passing the torch, how to mold and support the next generation of pros in your industry.
Yes.
That's what our topic is going to be today. Let me just very quickly, before we get started, or as we get started, I'm going to introduce myself, tell you guys a little bit about myself, and then 𝐐𝐵, you can tell the audience about yourself.
Okay.
So, I am your host again for the A Queen's Roundtable Show and podcast, as well as your host for the A Queen's Roundtable Leadership Symposium, which happens in January, May, and September. Yes, I said September. We're getting geared up for the next one next month. And I am also the executive producer of the A Queen's Roundtable channel on the one and only Women Win Network, which is the fastest growing all women network. We stream on Roku as well as Amazon Fire TV. And yes, I do have an anthology coming out next month, Born to Lead, Awakening the Leader Within. I'm super excited about that. So definitely, if you are not following me here on Facebook at Realizing Your Potential 123, then you need to do so, as well as follow me on LinkedIn under 𝐿𝐿𝐿 Harrison. That way you can stay up to date on everything that's coming up and be able to join us for the virtual launch as well as for the symposium. So that is me in a nutshell. And you can go ahead and introduce yourself and let them know a little bit about you and what you do.
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is 𝐐𝐵 Poland. I'm the CEO of Love for Words, which is an editing boutique. I primarily focus on nonfiction, and most of my clients are other Black authors. So I'm really there to guide them on the path, give them tough love, words of encouragement, and making sure that their manuscripts are ready to be published. They sound good, they make sense, they resonate with the target market. I'm also an author myself. I'm a 9-time published author. I've been in a few anthologies and published some of my own books, including Dear August, Love August, which was my first book of poetry that I published in 2020. I'm also a speaker. I like public speaking. I have a podcast, Editor Knows Best, where I talk to other Black creatives like authors and editors about their experience and get them to share recommendations for our listeners. I'm a Rochester, New York native, and I've always loved reading and writing. So being an editor really falls in line with all my passions and the talents that I have. And I'm blessed and excited to be able to work with other Black authors, making sure that our stories are told the way they deserve to be told. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay. Well, we worked together a few times over these past couple of years. And, it's always a pleasure, always a joy. And I really appreciate the way you are so dedicated to what you do. You're very consistent, very, very personable. And it's just, I just, even though I may not say it all the time, I may not comment on everything, but I'm one of your supporters. And I'm
Thank you.
glad we, became connected in this online space.
Yes,
I don't know if I ever told you, but I used to live in New York. I was there from 2005 to 2015.
Okay.
And I lived primarily in Brooklyn.
Okay.
I'm born and raised in Michigan, but I love New York. But I ended up having to leave because I had at the time separated from my husband. I had a child, and it was just, too much financially. My family and everyone is back here in Michigan.
Yeah.
I had to say goodbye to the city. Oh my
Yeah.
God. But at any rate, so we're gonna go ahead and dive right on into the show. And I'll let you go ahead and take the lead and just
Okay.
let us know, I guess, maybe initially start off with why is this topic important to you?
Yeah, so passing the torch and helping to bring up the next generation of specifically Black editors is very important to me. I know that I'm not going to be editing forever, and I don't want that cycle to end with me. I want to be able to help other up and coming Black authors, but editors, be able to succeed in the freelance world or succeed at starting an editing business. So for me, it's really a part of my legacy, to say that I've been able to help these new editors find resources that work for them, help build their confidence so that when they send a quote out, they're not nervous about it, or feel like they have to discount their work because they're new or because they're Black. So for me, it's really important, again, to carry on my legacy, to make sure that I'm not hoarding all the knowledge and all the, all the things that exist, to be able to share that and give back and help others come into the industry. So when I started in editing, I didn't have a mentor. I didn't do an editing internship. So it was just me, doing my due diligence and trial and error, figuring out everything on my own. But I want to be a part of closing that gap and making sure that new Black editors have support and they have someone who can mentor them, that they're comfortable with, that they can trust, and that, will be honest with them and share, tools and tips that will help them navigate the industry smoother than I did. So that's why it's so important to me, because I want to make sure my legacy continues and that we continue to have a generation of excellent Black editors who will, carry us on.
I think it's really important at the fact that you mentioned about knowing their worth, in terms of, because I don't know anything about, editing, except for that it can be expensive. That's all I know. But if I would venture to say, just like with anything, breaking off into different industries, that just because even in a society as a whole, we're not necessarily, when I say we, meaning, us as African American, especially probably African American women, I would assume, we have to really stick to our guns, right? I mean, in terms of knowing our worth. And I guess the first thing that comes to my mind is that, like, I love Viola Davis, the actress. And I know, I've caught, and I'm not even a big interview person, but I've caught a couple of interviews with her, and she talks a lot about her path of knowing her worth. She talks a lot about, they're coming to her and saying, I really want you to be a part of this piece. You're going to bring this to it. You're going to bring that to it, because you always do, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, okay, well, why is this figure like this? That we need, you know what I mean? If that's what you really say, and that's what you really believe, then you need to show me the money, so to speak, right?
Right.
Because I know I'm worth it and I know what I bring to the table. So, and like I said, that's just the first thing that comes to my mind. But I would assume, just like anything else, as a African American person as well as a female, I would assume that you're constantly fighting that battle, if you will, especially initially, like proving yourself, right? Like really having to stick to your guns and probably have to even walk away sometimes, right?
Right. For sure. Yeah, it comes with the territory. I've onboarded my very first intern just a few months ago, and we had a conversation about that, and about how much she should be charging. So of course, when you're new in the field, you automatically assume I don't have the experience, so I need to charge the bottom level. However, in the new age that we're in and the freelancing opportunities and business opportunities, that experience doesn't have to be in that particular role. So no, she hasn't necessarily edited books, but she studied abroad in South Korea and she produced a newsletter. So that's something that is in her portfolio, and that is a reason for her to charge more than the minimum wage. How many other Black female editors have studied overseas in South Korea and produced a newsletter based on information from students who barely know English? What type of skill did that take? So that gives her the credibility. It gives her, again, that she has the actual newsletter, so she can show that to clients. Like, this is my work. I created this. I wrote this. I formatted it. I worked on translating it because, again, this came from, English as second language learners. So you have to be, I would say, innovative in how you show your value and your worth. And it's not always about doing it for a long time. So I just encourage her to use that as a price point. In addition to that, she does have her bachelor's in English. So that's another value add. So instead of her coming in charging $15 an hour, which is, what she was going to do, I encouraged her to think about just those 2 points. You've studied abroad, you have proof of your work, and you have a bachelor's in English, and you're looking to be an editor. So I really just wanted her to look at it from that lens. And just because, again, you never edited a book, all this stuff is transferable. So you can charge more than that bottom line, even if you don't have years and years of experience. So I just encourage, people who are going into the industry, especially Black people, if you're, looking to go into a new industry or freelance route, to observe or to take a look at your background and all that you bring to the table. So, if you're looking to become a publicist, but, you haven't had any clients yet, but you're known for your speaking, you could easily have speech writing as a part of your PR firm. You could easily use that to propel yourself and set yourself apart from other new publicists. So again, it's not always about, the jobs on your resume. I encourage you to look at the skills that you have, because most skills are transferable, and they will help you get ahead quicker in whatever industry you're interested in.
You mentioning that, and I'm so glad that you said that, mentioning the transferable skills, because oftentimes we don't look at it like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, it's really important that you teach that when you mentor individuals, you let them know
yes,
that counts, because I think about, like, let's just say, I'm just going to use me, for example.
Mm-hmm.
This is not something I've been doing for years, in terms of getting online and interviewing people and the business strategy, just the business in itself, right? I'm a social worker. I'm a therapist. I currently work in community mental health. But the idea is that, or the transferable part, that's what I mean to say, is that I deal with people. I enjoy dealing with people. I like talking to people. Maybe not necessarily look, maybe not necessarily in a room with like hundreds of folks.
Right.
But, I get, I'm gonna be honest, that's not something that I look forward to.
Right.
But I enjoy engaging. I like interacting. I like finding out like what makes people tick, things of that nature. So I love that, So I have to realize that those are skills, talking to people and establishing a rapport and asking the right questions and, things of that nature. Those are some of the things that I bring to the table. So like you said, in terms of my pricing and things of that nature, I have to take all of that into consideration, because initially it's like, okay, well, I've never done this before. I've never, I don't know, there's always a first, and you automatically think like, well, I can't necessarily charge this amount of money, or maybe you lack some confidence because you haven't done that exact skill set previously, but you don't really look at how many other components are packed in there, or the other transferable skills that you bring to the table.
Right.
So I would assume that, yes, that's extremely important when you're talking with people that you mentor.
Yes, definitely. Yep. I always encourage them to have a broad perspective of all that they've already accomplished and transfer that to their new business. And that also, it builds your confidence as you talk about the things you've already done. As you acknowledge the kudos that you've gotten, or the, it could be an award, but it doesn't have to be that formal. It could be a thank you card from a client who was excited to work with you, who felt like it was worth it for them to work with you. I also have done some social work in my background, and I was able to get a furniture grant for a client, and she painted a portrait for me. So even something like that, just doing your job can get you, proof, so to speak, that you've done a good job, whether it's from your colleagues or the clients that you're working with. There are ways to get the proof of what you're doing is going well, or that you're on the right path. So don't forget to pat yourself on the back, and don't be too hard on yourself when it comes to that.
Wow, this is just, I love it. I mean, in the topic in itself, I think it's important to recognize that, because, a lot of times I think when we're operating in our business, we may not necessarily think of it that way. I know a lot of times, like when I talk to different women, we end up, towards the end, but initially they may not have necessarily been thinking along these lines. I know I wasn't initially, but thinking about the other African-American young women that are watching us, whether they're tuning in live, right? Whether they're our nieces, whether they're our younger sisters, cousins, whichever, they're looking at us.
Yes.
And seeing like, okay, maybe I can be a business owner. Maybe I can think outside the box. Things of that nature. So when you talk about passing the torch, I think we have to consider all of that.
Yes.
We set an example.
Absolutely. So even this internship wasn't of my doing. She emailed me, and she said she's been following me and watching me for the last few years. Wow. And she asked to do an internship with me. So for me, that's just proof that what I'm doing is influential, or that it has an impact, and that people are watching. And you also, like you said earlier, you expressed that you're one of my supporters, but you also said you might not necessarily comment on my posts or share them, but that doesn't mean that people are not watching and they're not appreciating what you're doing. So when I got that email was very heartwarming for me, because, I thought about having an intern, but I couldn't say no to her, for her to say all of that and then be like, oh no, that's okay. So I took her on as my intern, and, I'm just excited that I'm able to help her and encourage her. And like I said, she had never edited a book before, but I've assigned her projects, and I pay her for those manuscripts that she edits. And when she's done, I always say to her, make sure you put that in your portfolio. The client, they don't necessarily need to know that it was a part of your internship. I mean, you can tell them that, but you don't have to. And that's another thing we do. We overshare. Like, oh, this was the very first book that I edited. So forgive me. You can just put in your portfolio if they ask you that. Okay, but you don't have to. It's kind of like setting yourself up. So don't be so eager to let them know that you are inexperienced or that you're not confident. You can just say, here's my portfolio, and wait for their feedback. You don't necessarily have to preface it with you're a newbie or you're just an intern or things like that. So I encourage her to share that in her portfolio. She was paid for it. So, don't be afraid to take advantage of your internships if you have an internship. and don't feel ashamed of it, because I mean, it's a learning opportunity, and it's what you make it. So I'm just excited I'm able to mentor her and answer her questions about, the industry, and get her connected with resources and other editors as well, who are going to be able to support her, because it's what I wish I would have had back in 2016 when I took on my business venture.
Exactly. I like how you mentioned that, that you wish you would have had that. Oh, wait a minute, I hit a button here. I want to make sure I didn't mess up anything. Okay. Yeah, that looking at how that really could have been very helpful for you.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're able to provide that for others.
Mm-hmm.
For others. I mean, that's awesome. Wow.
Yes. Very
so
rewarding.
Shout out to you. It's like, hey, I've been following you.
Yes.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's it comes full circle, because like I said, I won't be doing this forever, but I know working with her, and actually I'll be having another intern start in the fall. She reached out to me as well. So I'm just glad to know that I'm able to help other Black female editors. Well, the 2 interns are Black female editors, but I'm open to others as well. But I'm just glad to be able to pass that torch, so that there are other, Black female editors to continue the marathon, as they say nowadays.
Yeah, wow. So still that one reached out to you. Yeah. Now here goes another one. Okay, you're good in that team. Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, what was I going to say? You kind of really, when you mentioned about that second editor, I was like, whoa, okay. But that just being able to work with other young ladies like that, you to encourage them and support them, I know that goes a long way.
Yes.
And you never know, and this always comes up as well, you never know who's watching. You never know who's watching, and sometimes people just maybe they have to work up the courage, or
right.
Oh, I think we have a comment. They have to work up the courage, or maybe they're in a particular situation that they want to get out of. Like you said, because she told you she had been watching you for a few years, right?
Yeah.
So you never even knew that. So that's why a lot of times, and this is going to a different subject, but that's why a lot of times it comes up over and over again, just to keep going, keep doing what you're doing. If you're doing it, you're walking in your purpose. You are going to feel impactful.
Yes.
Regardless. And it's not about the money, or I gotta, make this income goal, this month, blah, blah, blah. And, that kind of thing. You're doing it from your heart, and it's something that's important to you.
Right.
And there are other people out there that can learn from you, that are encouraged from you, that are inspired by you, and they just haven't, I was gonna say, picked up the phone. You can tell how old school I am. They just haven't wanted to do that. So yeah, and I know I have noticed that did you recently win an award of some kind?
Not as recent as this year. Not that's coming to mind.
Okay. Well, it seems like I remember you celebrating a couple of things. You're affiliated with it's not the Small Business Administration, but tell me, don't you sit on a board of some kind or something like that? Like, what's the name of it again?
Maybe the Rochester Black Association. The Rochester Black Authors Association.
Black Authors Association.
Yes. So we did recently have our 5th annual Authors Expo, and we had a proclamation just to celebrate the day. The founder, Corey Lamar Tanksley, passed away, but so this was the first event that we hosted since his passing. So we brought together, I think it was 20 or so authors, local, some from, I want to say, for some other states, I don't want to get it wrong, but we had some local authors and some from across the country who came together, and we were able to celebrate and acknowledge, the books that, Black people produce, and that they are, entertaining, educational, inspirational, that we write across all genres, and not just urban fiction. And that, we are publishers, we're editors, and that was very exciting. That was a great event. That was in June. So that was,
Okay.
yeah. Okay. So that was definitely a highlight of this year.
Okay. Yeah, because I remember seeing something in reference to that. But yeah, congratulations again on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, when you do that, is that something you recommend to other, aspiring editors
to attend like expos? Like I'm sorry.
To be a part of things like that, like if they're not already.
For sure. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's a great way to grow your network. You can also make friends that way too. So it doesn't just have to be a business avenue. So I would definitely encourage you to find out what organizations exist, locally for you that you can join for whatever industry you're interested in. There may be authors associations or cosmetology associations, whatever your industry of choice. Do some research and get involved. You can serve on the board, or you can volunteer at their annual events or their, monthly workshops. So I would definitely encourage you to get involved that way. You may find a mentor doing that, getting in touch with a seasoned person who's able to show you the ropes or give you some valuable feedback that will help you. And then again, you may also become a mentor yourself. So I would highly recommend being involved in those groups that excite you, the groups that you're interested in, and having a role in that to grow yourself and also help others grow.
So how did you do it? How did you become involved?
Yes. So actually, when I first heard about the Black Authors Expo, I lived in Savannah, Georgia, and I wasn't able to attend, but I sponsored the event for 2 years in a row. And then I think by the third year, I want to say, I had moved back to Rochester, New York. So I was able to go. And by that time, I had published my first book. So the first time I went with another board member who had published her book. And then the second time I had my own table because I published my book. And then I believe it was the following year they had asked me to join the board just because, I had been involved in volunteering and sponsoring. So there are different ways you can be involved. And even if it's not local to you, you can still be involved in it by sponsoring or, again, going to their city or town and volunteering at the event. And it, a board position may come out of it, it may not. That wasn't my end goal, but again, you just never know, what opportunities come out of you taking action and being confident enough to do that.
Wow. So you sponsored the event for 2 years from Georgia.
Yes. I was one of the sponsors. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, Rochester is my hometown. So that was another, key reason that I wanted to be involved. And I made those donations with intent. I wanted to make sure that, the expo lived on, even if I wasn't living there. And I really believed in the mission and vision of, improving the literacy in the Black community. So I really bought into that, and that's where my passion lies. So I couldn't not support the event.
Right. Wow. That is awesome. Just, what, and I didn't even know this. Mm-hmm. This is, I'm learning it as you're, sharing more about, some different things that you've done, and just basically, what brought you up to today, to 2022, with 2 interns. Wow. Okay. So that's hitting the nail on the head. Oh, you were gonna say something?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna ask you what type of ways that you have been able to pass the torch in your industry in regards to hosting and interviewing. What things would you recommend?
And you know what? As I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about I need to do better. I do need to do better. And I'm actually just like, my brain is going, and I'm thinking about some ways that I can do it as well. So initially, like right off the bat, like I said, I'm really big on the whole idea of people are watching,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
and setting a good example. You know, like I have a niece. Oh my gosh, she just turned 17. Oh my gosh, she's 17, y'all. She'll be going to college in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, and I'm thinking about, you know, like her watching me, you know, other, and I'm trying to think, do I have any other? I don't really have, well, I do. I do have some younger cousins, you know, that are watching me. And so I'm really, really big on that in terms of setting that, you know, basically, what is it? Talking the talk and walking the walk, you know, and I'm a firm believer that people just in general, not just kids, but people in general, they watch what you do, not necessarily what you say. I mean, you still have to be mindful of what you say, but you know, you have to make sure that your actions line up. So I've always done that. I've always been very big on that. Even like I have a son, you know, I have the one son, and I want him to see me being consistent. I want him to see me not give up. You know what I mean? I want him to see me be passionate about something, you know? So that's, you know, I've already doing and continue to do that. Now, I do need to do better in terms of like maybe mentorship. And I guess as I'm sitting here, I could probably benefit from a mentor as well, you know, an intern, you know, someone that is interested in, you know, some realm of this, whether they want to, you know, have their own show, whether it be virtual or in person, you know, what have you. If, you know, that they want to be some sort of an influencer.
Right.
And, you know, like I said, you've kind of sparked me a little bit. Like I said, kind of got my wheels turning. And maybe I could have an intern that's interested in doing, and, you know, they could be interested in maybe putting together an anthology or doing some sort of a virtual event or in-person event, you know, some kind, you know, something dealing with empowering women to, you know, be a better version of themselves. So I guess maybe that's something that I can do, you know, to have an intern help me that can, you know, we can learn from one another, you know, because she's going to be real good. I know it, all the tech stuff and different ways to get people's attention and to hold their attention and things of that nature. Whereas I'm not, like, I don't have those, we'll put it like this, I'm developing those skills. You know, so yeah, so this is kind of sparking me. So, you know, that's something that I guess I could do.
Yeah.
You know, to be able to take it a step further and, you know, be able to, like I said, we can learn from each other.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So I guess I have to think about how I can actually put that into take action, intentional action towards that.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I'm glad to hear that. And you'll figure it out. You'll figure out what works best for you. I'm just glad that it's on your radar.
Yeah, there you go. So my radar now. So you asked me what other ways. I guess something else. What could I do? I guess and like I said, this is all just coming to me on the spot right now. Because I'm a executive channel producer, I could maybe scout out or open up the floor, if you will, to, I don't know, are they called millennials now?
Probably Gen Z.
Oh my God, there's a Gen Z. Oh my, I'm so old. You know, but open up the floor maybe for them to do some sort of programming that, you know, with whatever their concerns are of today, but obviously under the personal, professional leadership development of some kind.
Yep.
So that would be a good avenue.
Absolutely. I think that would be great because we know social media is so influential, and Generation Z is very big into videos, and you know, they do their TikTok and they're producing their own things. So it wouldn't hurt for them to learn the business side of that and the, you know, official side of that, not just unofficial, pull out your phone, but these are the tools that you use to get an even better shot, or etc. So I definitely would encourage you to do that as well. That sounds like an awesome idea.
Yeah. Wow. I'm telling you, I'm sitting here and I didn't, and see, and this is why I like things of this nature, because, you know, when you get around other individuals, and that's the purpose of going to conferences, right? Is not not only to be inspired or to be poured into, but just to be able to get around other, like-minded individuals. When I say like-minded, like I said, you're an editor. I don't want any parts of that. I do what I do, okay. But the thing of it is, we're both concerned, or we both have that general goal, if you will, or that's one of our goals, is to be able to inspire other women, basically to take the torch, in some form of fashion, right? In some form of fashion. So just us even sitting here, just the two of us, imagine if there were two other women, from different backgrounds, they have different businesses. Right. And just what we can come up with when we talk openly and, candidly. And I hadn't even thought about that. Like, I really hadn't even thought about, well, I take that back. I was thinking about my niece in terms of being an intern, but she actually turned me down.
Okay.
She turned me down. So, but, bringing another young person on. Yeah. And like I said, I was just initially thinking just to kind of help with things. But this whole idea with maybe a show, like a show geared toward, because really the reality is that, me being born in the 70s, my mindset is totally different from someone even born in the 80s or in the 90s, much less the 2000s. Oh my God. The kids that were born in the early 2000s, they're in their early 20s now, and they are the ones that we're passing it to, So yeah, that would be an excellent idea. Yeah, I have to think about that. I have to think about that. Yeah, that's some food for thought for me. I mean, audience, I know, those of you that may be joining us live, I know there's a couple of comments that came up, but I'm not that tech savvy with that. And sometimes I don't know if they're coming in from LinkedIn or from YouTube or Facebook. So I think Facebook will show up on the screen. So we'll definitely get back to you, if you leave us a question or comment. But I'm interested to know, I mean, so with us talking about this and bringing this up, like how are you passing the torch to those that come after you in whatever your coaching or consulting business is that you do?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just sharing some of the lessons that I've learned, lessons in confidence, lessons in pricing, lessons in, choosing a niche, making sure, you're doing things that you enjoy, that you have passion for, because if you don't, you're going to burn out and you won't do it anymore. So having that patience to try different things and then decide which path is right for you. Those are some of the ways, and, sharing resources that I come across, podcasts, books. If there are other editors who, that I think they should connect with. I set up sessions so that the interns can talk with other editors. We all have different perspectives. So my current intern wants to do copy editing. My specialty is developmental. So I've reached out to some in my network and said, hey, I have an intern. She wants to do copy editing. That's not my wheelhouse. Do you mind having a Zoom with her? So she's going to talk to them and get their insights, because copy editing is a lot different than developmental. So just being able and willing to share that. I think a lot of times in the African American community, we have been taught to hoard things because of the scarcity of what we've been left with. I don't want to say what we've been given, because we've had plenty, but we've had it taken from us. So then we've had to learn how to live in scarcity and poverty and et cetera. So the reason I'm saying that is because that also applies to knowledge. So we don't want to share our insider tips because we don't want this person to surpass us. Well, I can't tell her that, because then she might start getting my potential clients or whatever. So we have these different barriers we're trying to overcome. So I want to be a part of dismantling that and sharing with her, because, again, I want her to continue where I leave off, but I also don't want her to stumble the way that I did. What kind of mentor am I if I want her to, if I don't want to see her succeed, if I'm not willing to make her what's the word I'm looking for? Her ride smoother than mine. What's the point? I might as well not, have an intern or say I'm a mentor. So I really am here to, give her information. Now, of course, even it's kind of like being a parent. Yes, I want you to have it better than me, but I also need you to understand that there are going to be struggles. And I don't necessarily want to take all the challenges away, because then you're not going to learn resilience. You're not going to learn how to deal with difficulty and challenges and struggling. But I don't necessarily want you to go through exactly what I went through. Maybe I want you to have a few less hurdles than me, but I still want you to have those hurdles. So there are things that I leave up for interpretation, because she's going to have to learn on her own, and things that I'll ask her questions about so that she can think about it and ruminate on it and make a decision for herself, and not give her my answers, because we're two different people. So it's really a delicate balance of, yes, I want to make this easier for you, but I don't want to give you all the answers to the test, because you have to learn that stuff yourself. So I've just been, again, sharing personal experiences and giving her things for her to follow up on that I think she would be interested in.
Wow, that is awesome. That is really awesome. And I totally agree. I just, to kind of piggyback on what you said, is that you want her to be able to benefit, right, from your knowledge and your expertise, so that her ride will be smoother. But at the same time, you don't want to spoon feed her everything either. You want her to be able to navigate the editing world as well.
For sure. For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's very important. So this has been awesome. We're going to go ahead and get ready to wrap up. We have a couple minutes left. So before we officially close out, I definitely, want you to let them know again where they can find you, and if you have any upcoming, projects that you want them to know about. I'll do the same. And what do you want to leave the audience with?
I would just leave the audience with, if you can imagine it, it can be reality. And I don't want to gloss over the fact that we have adversity and that we have challenges and things that make it difficult for us to achieve our goals. But I want to highlight that everything can come true. So if it's something that you have in your mind, you can make it happen. And there are people and resources to support you. It may not necessarily be your family or your friends or the people you know. It might be somebody across, overseas or across the country, somebody you've never met, somebody you've never seen. You might just have heard their voice on a podcast. But just know that whatever it is you want to do, you can do it, no matter what.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So go ahead and let them know, give them your website, let them know where they can find you, how they can link up, and if you happen to have any upcoming events, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. So you can visit my website. It's love4words.com. That's the number 4, love4words.com. You can head over there and check out my website and testimonials and, media and things like that. You can also listen to my podcast, anchor.fm/editor knows best. So if you're looking to jump into the editing world, or you're an author and writing, publishing, things like that, that'll be a great listen for you. So you can tune in there. I don't have any upcoming events on my schedule at this time, but if you go to my website, you can subscribe to my newsletter and you can stay up to date that way.
All right. Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you again. It's always a pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you all for joining us for A Queen's Roundtable Show. And this is going to be something I'm going to continue doing. So it's going to be kind of a hybrid, if you will, of things. I am going to have episodes where I still interview, individuals, other business owners, and be able to spotlight you. So if you're interested in that, definitely let me know. If you want to co-host an episode like we did here today, let me know that as well. That offer is also on the table. Additionally, excuse me, I have some sinus stuff going on. Additionally, again, go ahead and follow me on Facebook at Realizing Your Potential, the numbers 123, as well as on LinkedIn under Jacqueline Kabah Harrison, my full name. Reach just like this on LinkedIn. And that way you can stay up to date and be able to join us for the next 𝐴_Queens Roundtable Leadership Symposium, which is going to be taking place next month, as well as the virtual book launch for Awakening the Leader Within, or I'm sorry, Born to Lead, Awakening the Leader Within. I got to give you the full title. So that way you can join us and be in the house of, you know, all of this empowerment, this support, this encouragement. And we basically want to pour into you. Okay, so definitely make sure you follow me so you can attend those events and be in the house. And lastly, but definitely not least, if you have your own show, if you have a show, maybe you stream on YouTube, maybe you stream on LinkedIn or Facebook, or maybe you're part of another network, but you want to increase or maximize your visibility, I have opportunities to host your own show on my 𝐴_Queens Roundtable channel on the Women Win Network, which is a Christian-based all-women network, totally focused on women's empowerment. So if that's your niche, that's something you're interested in, let's link up, let's talk. Go ahead and email me or go to my website, Realizing Your Potential, the numbers 123.com, or shoot me an email at realizingyourpotential123@gmail.com. Thanks again, everyone, and will join me again, not this Sunday, but the following Sunday for another awesome episode of 𝐴_Queens Roundtable Show, where I am going to be highlighting another queen. All right, so thanks again, and until next time, take care, everybody, and thank you, Ms. Colin.
All right, thank you.
All right, take care, everybody.